are back. And I remember last I think you had a theory how this connects with the Superman case and who the ultimate culprit is going into Case 5.
You did?
No.
I was going to say, I don't remember this at all. It has been a while.
Yeah, it has. If you're going to come back to us, we were talking to him. I was probably half asleep, and that's why we stopped in the middle of this.
We did. You said you couldn't last it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's usually the opposite. You usually are done before me, but this time I was more tired than you first. Alright, Lord Von Zeeks. Or actually, maybe we should go back over all this.
Sure.
For my sake. Alright. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before? The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago now, unofficially of course, to pave the way. Goodness, a year ago? At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensics division, and once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and criminals will suffer dearly. What do you mean? For too long, those scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes, but London's scum is about to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell. I intend to see to it personally. By creating the finest police force the world has ever known to protect our honor and our future. Why do I get the feeling that he may be a problem? Look at those eyes, he means every word. Like... I feel like it is possible that at some point he's like an ends justifies the means kind of guy. I hope not either, because so far I feel like he's actually been straight to us, even though at first he reminded us of Gant. I guess we'll see. Dr. Seath is an extremely reliable coroner. When I officially establish the forensics division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. Plus, he gave us back our license to practice law, too.
You did?
Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikotoba. Oh, yes, my lord. Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan. Yes, that's right, I understand he will arrive at the beginning of next month. Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikotoba, I mean. It was many years ago now, but yes, I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well. If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student. It was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago in fact. Mikotoba was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jikoku I think, accompanied him as a young, promising judge. The punctiliousness and politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way. I didn't think that you were. Dr. Mikotoba studied forensics at one of London's large... Why did I not finish that? Hospitals. If I'm not mistaken. Dr. Seath was also there then, as it happens. Then Dr. Seath knows my father, does she? She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt their paths crossed regularly. But I've no doubt they knew each other superficially. After all, Dr. Mikotoba was here studying his subject for some 6 years in total. 6 years? That's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years, so he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years. It was a rather turbulent time at home. Oh. Perhaps Father wanted a reason to get away. What do you mean? Why?
See, I want to know about that.
Yeah, because it seems like there's a reason. It must have something to do with what he knows. Well, clearly something was going on at the time. Alright, Lord Von Zieks. I wanted to ask you about Lord Von Zieks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago by a mass murderer known as the Professor who targeted nobles and royalty. Is that right? You Japanese are a thorough lot. You've done your research well. That seems like a little bit of a positive stereotype, as opposed to Von Zieks with a learned friend, right?
Yeah, but remember, he doesn't like the Japanese for some reason.
Yeah, whereas he apparently has a fascination with them. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper. What? Why? When his brother, Clint Von Zieks, was murdered, it was just after young Baroque had graduated from the University of London and became a professor. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing, rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Baroque Von Zieks went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind. Oh my word. So Lord Von Zieks isn't the Reaper, it's the ghost of his brother? Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles. Oh yes, Lord Strongheart. Go ahead. It's about Professor Harebrain's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains if possible. Are you well versed in science, then? Not in the slightest. In fact, you could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently. Well, the special dispensation legally preventing investigation of the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Seats' team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But I suppose until then, there's no harm in you looking at the records as long as you touch nothing. Thank you. Being able to look at it is better than nothing. And I'll be able to see it too. Your time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls. See, he seems so straight with us, right, about giving us permission and doing this, doing that. But could you see him being the Reaper? He seems so anti-scum, escaping conviction.
I don't know if he just doesn't think that we'll figure stuff out, or he just doesn't care if we do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know for 100% certainty if he is. It's kind of just something that came to me, considering...
Well, I mean, it's a good avenue to explore. Because he seems pretty squared away, but...
Yeah, and I'd like him to be, like, I'd like to think that whatever's going on with the government he doesn't have anything to do with, but I guess we'll see. If he does, hopefully it's nothing bad. Actually reminds me, I guess I probably... Well, actually, no, it's not really a spoiler, but, and then there were none is like one of my favorite books, and it's not a spoiler to tell you this part, but it's basically 10 people go on an island, and one by one they start to get picked off, and they don't know if it's somebody else on the island or if it's one of them. And the common thread, which you learn early, and which the book is explicit in, is that everybody there was being convicted of a crime by whoever brought them there, but it was basically of a crime that they were not actually sentenced for anything. So in a way, it was like they escaped the law, and whatever was happening, this thing decided that they were to be punished if the law couldn't do it. That's actually what that reminded me of. We are extremely sorry to have troubled you when you were so busy, my lord. She's so sweet. I have important matters to attend to in preparation for the symposium, you understand. Alright. Which is the new...
The machine, probably. Experiment stage.
Yes. No, forensics laboratory.
I think not.
But aren't we supposed to go here first so we can actually look at it?
Unless the pieces are in the laboratory?
maybe we should go to experimentation stage first, because I feel like forensic library we should be going at. Wait, did we already talk to her and everything? Oh, there we go. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like. Oh, that's alright, is it? I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here. Ah yes, Toby. Woof! The machine that exploded must be at the top of those stairs, I presume. Look how happy she is that the machine exploded. I don't know why, she's just like, yeah, exploded, must be at the top! I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind. Sorry, you can't go up there, Suze. Oh? It's like I told Odo yesterday, even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to touch it? The special dispensation for scientific equipment act. Is that what you're thinking of? That's the one. That's why only them lot are allowed to investigate it. What are they called again? The forensic something? The forensic investigation team. Is that what you were thinking of? That's the one, yeah. But isn't it the case that the special dispensation has been lifted? I think so. I don't really get it, to be truthful with you. You're still supposed to get permission from some bigwig or other, as far as I know, which we did. What was his name again? Lord Strange something? I'm not sure that's quite right, Gina. I think you mean Lord Strongheart, perhaps. That's the one, yeah. Apparently, he's always watching the time or something. Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. Eh, you what? You've met him? Last time the boss was called to go and see him. He waited for 3 hours at the Cove's office and came back sniveling. Tragic. Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene as long as we touch nothing. Oh yeah? Honestly. Alright then, go ahead. If it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. So, you're still saying all this is above board, are you? I'm sure everything will be fine. That really would be tragic. Alright then, them's the stairs, off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. I'm so glad we're seeing Gina again, because I totally enjoyed her. Oh, are we supposed to, like, click this to go up? Let's go see what we can find out. Yeah, okay, there we go. We're gonna investigate. Oh my, so this is the machine. That was used to deceive people into thinking instantaneous kinesis had taken place. Yes, that's right, or rather it was the machine. It's a little worse for wear at the moment. What extraordinary lengths Professor Harebrained went to in order to obtain the research grant. No, the professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it. Yes, of course. It is amazing, though, isn't it? The scale of the whole affair is so very British. You're right about that. You'd never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure. Oh, look, is that... Oh, dear. Lord Von Zieks. So, I think we're more or less done here, aren't we? Shall we, Mr. Sato? Already? He is the Reaper, remember. We'd do well to keep our distance, I think. But we have permission to be here, from the top. We're perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine, as long as we don't touch anything. From the top? Do you mean Lord Strongheart? Exactly. So we can stay here and stare at this wreckage for as long as we like. She could have been at the center of the explosion here and wouldn't have bent her steel will. Okay, we'll look at him soon. Let's see. I guess we'll just start with, this. What a terrible explosion it must have been. Even the steel girders had buckled and twisted in the blast. And what they call the birdcage was right in the middle of it all, just here. But look, Mr. Noberholder, that metal grill on the floor. Just looks as though it's designed to open. It does, doesn't it? If the floor had opened at the precise moment the explosion occurred, The birdcage could have dropped through and disappeared from sight. I don't think there's any doubt that this was a very elaborate hoax, is there? Look at that horn-shaped transmitting device. Isn't it amazing? That's exactly what I thought when I first saw it. It makes you think, doesn't it? If only it had just been a normal horn, none of this would have happened. That's almost exactly what I thought as well. I bet I can predict what you're going to say next in that case. You're about to say nothing ever goes to plan, aren't you? Oh no, I would never say something like that. However much I look at them, I just can't come to terms with those Tamari handballs floating in the sky. You've been glaring at them constantly since we came up here. Sorry, the feelings of wanting to ride in one and wanting never to set foot in one are fighting it out inside me. But if you don't look where you're walking, you might fall from the stage. I don't think I'd notice. That's how fiercely the battle inside me is raging. I think you should make peace with riding in one, Mr. Naruhodo. It would really be much safer that way. This wasn't here yesterday. Really? But if I'm not mistaken, it's the cage in which the victim was standing before he was apparently beamed through the air. That's right, the bird cage. According to what Professor Harebrain said in court, it's made of wood. Or more precisely, Japanese cypress, I think. And despite having been in an explosion and then falling from a great height, it's relatively unharmed. What wonderfully durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruhodo? I'd understood that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. I suppose they must have brought it back here when they'd finished their work. But sadly, not with the body inside it. No, that's right. I know we were given strict instructions not to touch anything, but still, this is too important a piece of evidence to overlook. We might need it for the trial. That's just the background. Alright, let us talk to Von Zieks. Least approachable man in the world winner 10 years in a row. Be strong, Mr. Naruhodo. Your country and your assistants stand firmly behind you. We're just talking to this guy. It's like your country stands behind you. Lord Von Zieks. What? Well, beautiful weather we're having, isn't it? I thought I was making it quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently you Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs. Oh, I read them. So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited. Ah, well, the thing is, Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate, on the condition that we didn't disturb anything. And yet you've managed to disturb me. Ah! Never mind. State your business, then. Come to think of it, there are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Von Zieks about. Not least of which is that awful case, even though it's nothing to do with this. Ask away, Mr. Naruhodo. You won't know unless you try. Boy, look at his face.
Don't ask about his brother first.
Alright. Are the police trying to locate the engineer, Mr. Drupper, already? Surely that goes without saying. We're very keen to see him found as well. The trouble is, we don't have much to go on aside from the description of the man we heard in court earlier. Which, according to Professor Harebrain, was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle. So I was just wondering, I realize it's probably not possible, but we'd very much appreciate any more clues you can give us. Wow, Susato-san really knows how to take the bull by the horns. Fine, why not? I have a photograph of the man here from an investigation 10 years ago. Though it appears he already had that black monocle at the time. What? Oh, no, nothing. I was just surprised that you shared that with us. We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow, which means we have to do everything we possibly can to track him down in the short time available. So why wouldn't I show you the photograph? What is Lord Von Zieks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all.
Can you go to the profiles?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. Keep going. I wanted to see the doctor lady. I'm wondering if it was the same person. She's the man, but
If she's that guy?
they don't look the same like that. But because at this time when they're actually forensic women, like doctors.
I don't know.
Okay.
But you know, he looks way worse here than in that picture.
Yeah. What does the doctor's profile say? Okay.
Yes.
Alright, carry on.
Alright, Brother Clint. So, Clint.
That wasn't.
I did not see that coming. It was the name of your older brother, I understand, Lord Von Zieks. You Nipponese. I always have to be on guard whenever you're around. So, you've been investigating me, have you? Oh, no, it's not like that. Well, alright, it is a bit like that. My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Von Zieks family. But tragically, a vicious killer took him from us. The professor, you mean? Hey, something funny. That's the extent of what you've discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised. Sorry, there's more to it then? Lackluster work is very much your trademark, isn't it? Ah, you're too kind. Are you going to tar all Nipponese with the same brush next? So tell me, what's your interest in that historic incident? As it happens, Lord Von Zieks, there's a rather curious case that comes to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork by any chance? I am, naturally. I believe that since last month I featured in one of the displays there for public scorn. Of course the infamous Reaper of the Barely would have to be exhibited, wouldn't he? Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place, and held for ransom. A particular waxwork which... Wait, you mean... Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak. I was unaware of that. He's turned as white as a sheet. Yo! Ah, the file I requested for the trial tomorrow. Thank you. Are you alright? Who is this man, Mr. Naruhodo? Oh yeah, she wasn't here for that. Lord Von Zieks' apprentice, apparently. So I'm not the only one. Susato-san can see it too. Lord Von Zieks, may we speak with your apprentice for a moment? With him? Why? Kazuma-sama. What? Kazuma. I don't believe it. Your posture, your presence. It can only be. It's you, isn't it, Kazuma-sama? I felt something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure, as if I knew him somehow. Can it? Can it really be you, Kazuma? Wait! Too late. What's going on here? What is your interest in my apprentice exactly? I didn't see that at all.
I thought it was Sholmes.
And I was telling you it can't be because he was at the Wax Museum. Although, in the back of my head, I thought maybe there's a 10% chance it was Sholmes because maybe there's some kind of
But
weird...
Sholmes is in on this.
That's the thing, yeah, he knows about it.
Yeah.
You act as if you know the man or something. Is he on it? Does he know who he is?
Probably.
Well, since when has he been in your care? I don't recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain 6 months ago. Lord Strongheart introduced him to me about 3 months ago now, with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor. But he didn't tell you why, did he? The man appears to be suffering from amnesia. He's forgotten every last detail about himself. He has amnesia. Tomorrow he will appear in court at my side. What? He's to serve as my judicial assistant on Lord Strongheart's orders. He'll be in court with us. Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course. Oh, yes. Thank you. I definitely saw a reaction there. When Susato-san called out like that, it really seemed to hit a nerve. When she called out Kazuma-sama... You'd already met that masked man, hadn't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, yesterday, in fact, at Lord Von Zieg's office. I guess it makes sense, though, because when we met him, I remember Naruhodo said, I feel like I've met him before.
Right.
And so Sholmes could have made sense in that aspect, but this Kazuma-sama, I mean, they already hinted that he might have been still alive. Yesterday, in fact, at Lord Von Zieg's office. That's crazy, because I really thought Kazuma died just like Mia. You know, like,
I did too. I mean, it was silly how he died, but was the dancer girl a whole hoax too? But you have to remember the investigators there was the Japanese man with Giselle Brett and Sholmes.
Yeah, Sholmes, and he would know, because how can you not figure out if somebody, like, if you're that, you know if somebody's dead or not. You're not going to mistake it.
And he gave the autopsy report too, I think. And then we couldn't figure out how the newspaper got on board.
Yeah. I want to know what the heck Sholmes is all about, because I'm 100% sure that he's not some secretly malevolent, evil man. So I want to know what the heck. I see. And if Kazuma-sama really is still alive, it means that Mr. Sholmes lied to us. Boom! Wow, if we had just gone just 2 sentences ahead. I know. We're going to need to speak to him about that.
Well, see, something's going on with Iris's dad, too.
Yeah, and Sholmes knows about it. Man, look at that face.
Don't bite me. Talk about the cat, sorry.
You're going to have to leave now. The forensic investigators are due to arrive shortly. If they find you here, it will cause problems. What sort of problems? Foreign affairs problems. Well, we could do without that. Alright, we'll be on our way. Let's go, Miss Susato. Of course. It's so funny that there's this whole weird conspiracy thing going. We have no idea what it is. It's there,
See if she has something new.
but I can't even pinpoint what it is. Oh, hello there. Gina, we were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again. Yeah, alright. Wait, what?
We already did this.
Yeah, what the heck? Oh, well, I'm just... Okay, she's actually saying new stuff right now. Apparently we can't look around the state tent because the forensic investigation team are at work. Can't you do anything, Gene, in your capacity as Inspector Lestrade? Look, I'd like to help you out, but I'm just a trainee, ain't I? Ain't nothing I can do. When it suits you, yes. Okay, so actually it was going somewhere different. Alright, why don't we go to the lab?
Whose lab? Is this Dr. Scythe?
I think so. I believe this is it. Dr. Seath's laboratory. That chemical smell really assaults the nose. And there's plenty to assault the eyes in here, too. It looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think? What a seasoned tourist you've become, Mrs. Sato. We could just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. First things first. Oh, never mind. I suppose this is Dr. Seath's desk. Is it like Seath or is it Scythe? Or
I don't know.
Dr. Scythe's? Dr. Seath's? What do we want to call it?
Scythe.
Let's do Scythe, yeah. I would not like to work in a place like this. It's very tidy, though, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Imagine how efficiently she must work. The lighting is poor, which is bad for the eyes, and the chemical smell can't be good for you. Not to mention the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves. Well, yes, those are valid concerns, I suppose. I could just about cope with a one-eyed Daruma doll watching over me, but that's all. Well, look at this. What a magnificent display case. The cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen, and the intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they? Do you have nothing to say about the skeleton inside, Mr. Naruhodo? Mrs. Sato, can't you tell that I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the terrifying contents of the case? It's how I cope. I'll be sure to remember that from now on. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals. Those ones here are labeled highly toxic. That's worrying, because there's also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there. Oh yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps he has meals here sometimes. Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death.
Yes.
Ah, yes. A table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing? It might be best not to ponder too deeply. Seeing the large tome that's open on the desk does make me wonder, though. How can anybody concentrate on bookwork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air? You'd either have to have a cast iron constitution or a really terrible sense of smell. Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. I suppose they're fruit liquors or something, or like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home. Father had jars like that in his lab as well. I expect they're human organs in a preserving solution, probably as examples of some rare medical condition. Mrs. Sato, there are some things in the world that it's perfectly fine never to know about. Ever. Oh. So, as I said, I'm sure they're fruit liquors or umeboshi, aren't they? Of course. That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. Naruhodo. There we go. I was afraid you were going to say that. I've been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like your Daruma doll on display in the office instead. What a what a silly dude our protagonist is. Now it's interesting. We're doing the sightseeing, but I thought we were gonna find something.
Or find the doctor?
Yeah, but it looks like we've investigated everything. Okay, let's go to Madame Tustell's. Oh my, no wonder it's called the House of Terrors. I'd like to turn on my heels and go straight home, via the confectionery. Being scared makes you crave sweets? I can understand that. I was looking forward to a reunion after 6 months away, but there's no sign of Mr. Sholmes anywhere. That's strange. He should be here investigating the abduction of the waxwork. Oh well, I suppose we'll just have to come back again later. Okay, later we go. Should we go to prison? What's he doing? Oh my, the whole wall of the cell is covered in mathematical equations. And he's still writing more now. Professor, sorry to interrupt. Oh, Mr. Naruhodo. And who is this young lady? My name is Susato Mikotoba. I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. It's a pleasure to meet you, Professor. Oh, if only I'd met a refined young woman like you sooner. None of this would have happened. No, that's not logical. That makes no sense at all. Oh dear, I'm sorry if my presence here upsets you. I owe you an apology too, Professor. I didn't manage to deliver what I promised you I would in court this morning. Oh no, the whole thing, the whole miserable affair. It all happened because I've been such a complete and utter clot. Professor Harebrain, what have you been working on in your cell? Oh, haha. You mean that. Oh dear, how embarrassing. I was suddenly struck by an idea, you see, and I simply had to write it down. The wall was all I had to hand. Oh, is it some new hypothesis? Something to surpass super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, maybe? No, actually. This is my autobiography. Your autobiography? How I Was Diddled and Fiddled by Albert Harebrain. I found that I can represent my odd fortunes with only odd numbers in an ambitious set of simultaneous equations. Really? I'm going to have to pay back all the loans I took for the Kinesis machine, you see. So it's going to be a new serial publication for next month. Part 1, An Odd Birth, An Odd Upbringing. Can't beat the man's optimism, that's for sure. I see. Well, for now, would you mind if we talked a little more about the case? Oh yes, of course. I've been working through the numbers. I was diddled, I was fiddled by the pair of them. By Asman and by the aloof engineer Drebber. We're not going to have to sit through an explanation of these equations, are we? Whoops. Let's see. Alright. Well, let's try it. Everything I believed in is turned on its head. My research, Mr. Asman, the Kinesis machine, my hypothesis event. I'm sorry it's come to this. There was really no other way. No, it's not your fault. I wanted to protect my work, but in the end there was nothing worth protecting. It was never my intention to deceive anyone. I didn't want to trick the public. No, of course you didn't. But in court this morning I realized something. Oh? If you've done something wrong without knowing it, you've still done something wrong. Logically, it makes no difference if you were aware of it or not. Ignorance is a poor excuse. The blame still lies with me. Oh, Professor. He believed in me this morning, you know. Baroque did. He believed in my hypothesis. Well, I think that was just a necessary factor in the prosecution establishing its case. No, Baroque wouldn't do something like that. I'm sure he genuinely believes it. Did he? I think I understand now why it was that he decided to take on the prosecution in my trial, I mean. After the terrible accident happened, nobody would believe in my hypothesis anymore. Not the police, not the prosecution service, not any lawyers even. I feel like I dealt some kind of finishing blow there. So if any other prosecutor had taken the case, if it was anyone other than Baroque, I'm sure the prosecution would have declared my hypothesis a complete and utter nonsense. And in that case, you would have been declared a fraud yourself, Professor. Exactly, which would have been a fate worse than death for me. But Baroque insisted that I was a proper man of science from start to finish. You think that's why he... I know him very well indeed. He's an extremely kind-hearted soul.
What?
But that extremely kind-hearted soul spent all morning trying to paint you as a murderer, didn't he? Well, admittedly, that pair of the analysis appears to have some flaws in it. And what about the whole Reaper side of things? How does that fit in with the kind-hearted soul idea?
He's not the Reaper.
Do you think he set out to trick me from the very start?
Yes.
That does seem likely, yes, I'm sorry to say. When I first met him, he introduced himself as a wealthy financier. He looked over the paper I'd written and said my work would benefit all humanity and must be pursued. He was so enthused, he was so emphatic, but in reality he was the mastermind of some vast criminal network, it seems.
I'm not laying down, but my butt hurts, so I gotta move.
I still can't believe it. As the machine was essentially a set decoration for some stage magic. It probably didn't require a large amount of investment, actually. But the scale of it wasn't just some small trick. It was a very elaborate feat of deception. All young scientists are full of hope about their burgeoning ideas, full of zeal. But none of us have any money. We want to do research, but we can't afford it. Many of us take on barely legal part-time work to try to earn just a few measly pennies to carry on. To go through all that only to be taken for a complete fool, it's too rotten to believe. It is, I agree, and that's why we have to find those responsible and bring them to justice. Mr. Aspen is no more, of course, which leaves us only the engineer. Mr. Enoch Drebber. Is he an engineer or a magician or a swindler? It was about a year ago when Mr. Aspen first brought Drebber to meet me at my laboratory. Since then, I've been in many times to discuss details about the Kinesis murder machine, but at no point did you have any inkling that he was just an illusionist. Oh, he definitely wasn't just an illusionist. What do you mean? He was a wealth of deep scientific knowledge. There's no question that the man's a genuine scientist. It's instantly apparent in conversation. I see. But the wretched man deceived you, Professor. It's unforgivable. We must do everything we can to find him and bring him to justice. Are there no more clues you can give us as to his whereabouts? I'm sorry, we only ever discussed the Kinesis machine. Nothing else. Although just once, I did visit his workshop. What workshop? Drebber's enormous fabrication laboratory, where he constructed my grand machine. Why didn't you mention this before? Enoch Trevor's workshop. There's every chance we might find the man there. I hear you yawning. I'm yawning too. I think I'm good.
No, keep going.
Okay, we'll finish this.
Okay.
Then I got to go. I know, trust me. I don't like.
You just sit down.
I know. How long have we been playing? Because I know it hasn't been that long. Let me see. 45 minutes. Wow. Trevor's workshop. So you've been to Trevor's place of work then? Yes, just once, you understand. It was an enormous place, plenty of room to construct the kinesis machine, you see. Where can we find it? We have to go there at once. There's a good chance that we'll find Trevor there. Well, yes, definitely. I'm sure we're not going to want to hear this. But I have absolutely no idea where the workshop is at all. I'm so sorry. I was more than half expecting that. You see, I was blindfolded in the carriage the entire way there. He blindfolded you. He wasn't taking any chances then. The place was incredible, the pinnacle of modern engineering. Even the oil he used was the very best, a special French machine oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Ah, the indescribable scent of that imported oil. Perfumers across the world should forget their secret formula and use that instead. What do you think, Miss Susato? Do you...
Ode to Machine for your next birthday.
Ode to Machine? How did you know that?
It's French, like...
Oh, yeah. For your next birthday. I've never used any kind of perfume, Mr. Neverhood, and I'm not sure I'd like to start with that. I don't suppose you know even part of the workshop's address, Professor? You don't have a business card from Mr. Jubber, for example? The man was clearly very Ah! Yes, I do. He gave me his business card once. It's right here, look. Let me see that. Throw etiquette to the wind, why don't you? Enoch Trevor, engineer. I'm afraid that's all it says. There's no address. No, oh well, I can't say I'm surprised. Still, this could be useful.
I'm gonna turn it over.
Yeah. Hello. This dark smudge here. I think perhaps it's machine oil. Ah yes, possibly. Dr. Harebrain mentioned something about the oil Mr. Jubber uses, didn't he? He said it was specially imported, very high quality oil that's impossible to obtain in Britain. Yes, that's right, but more importantly, that it's more fragrant than the finest perfume, so excuse me for a moment. Oh, it doesn't appear to have any scent at all. Don't worry, I expect that's just because there's such a tiny amount on here. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, hon.
Oh, no.
I know. I've been up a while. I wish I could have napped earlier. Looking forward to getting back in and figuring more out, because right now it's kind of balancing this, which is the court case, with the, bigger issue concerning what the governments are doing. So, we'll see what happens, but for now, thanks for watching, and hopefully next time I won't be beat up, and you won't be beat up.